area, I assume that you have people come in for the needs, and I guess like how you get it approved to be able to open it up to the public, because this is something I haven't really seen before.
Mm-hmm.
My name's Giselle. I'm also a third year in the landscape program. And then my question would just be, were there any issues you ran into when trying to design this place? Like, I know our site specifically has issues with water and just having trying to figure out where the water is going to come from. So that's all my question.
My name is Linda Luna, and I'm a second year. And I haven't thought of a question yet, but I was just taking the scenario. Is this area open to the public always, or?
Often.
Well, my name is Romano again, third year, and my question would be, how often did you water the plants? Because what we know so far is that it's very restricted right now to use water. So I'm just wondering, how often did you do that? Or how did you do that to keep them alive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And I'm Kathleen Blackistone. Welcome to Moonwater Farm. My husband and I started this project in 2012, and we rolled over our 401k, which is your retirement money, to make a business. It's called ROBS, like you're robbing your 401k, but you're allowed to roll over as a business startup. And I like to share that with people because we aren't often schooled in other forms of resources. And I would argue that that is a future state for many of us, right? If we don't have access to commercial funding and traditional modes of financial instruments, there are things out there where we can reconsider how we might put money together. And we originally were going to start an aquaponics farm, and I'll show you what that is in case you don't know, because I have a little backyard system, and grow food at scale from like where the rocks meet the mulch all the way back. So about a 3,500 square foot greenhouse was what we had intention. But we decided that we would fix the house first. It was a tear down. Everything was very dilapidated. You could put your arm through the walls of the house on both sides. The folks had plumbed the washing machine so it literally just drained under the house. There was no drainage for it. So mold was up to the shoulder, all of that. My husband is a designer, builder, contractor. And we used Christopher Alexander as a pattern language to inform our thinking. And we had done permaculture design through Master Gardener training and a number of other sort of design influences. And you were asking about the water. Because this is a residential neighborhood, the water was already plumbed in. And you will find that in residential spaces, is that the water, you're using municipal water. And so it's readily accessible. And I think that will become a priority even in climate strategies where water is difficult in new sites to put in, but where it's all, the infrastructure is already there, you can appreciate it's not much to run than some PEX pipe from the front source to the back of the property. But there was water in various places back here already. So, you know, at Lopez, that will be an issue. And my guess is that land is zoned very particularly. So this is zoned residential agriculture. So one of the reasons we chose this neighborhood, because at the time, it was not legal to grow food in residential neighborhoods and sell it commercially. And I said, oh, the policy will never get changed. And then lo and behold, Ron Finley pops up. He has the support of, you know, LA Food Policy Council and a lot of other players in the state to say, wait, you're gonna fine this guy for growing food for his community? That's weird. And those laws have changed. It took about 5, 6, 7 years, but the policy is a really important part of our built, I think it just sucked on a fly, of our built environment. And many people don't realize that or pay attention to it in the ways that they should. So zoning matters, and in every municipality you go to, it's different. And if you want to do urban agriculture, the rules are all over the place. You know, you can have 3 chickens in this city and 5 in that one, but no roosters. But here, there must be 60 roosters living next door. Right? I have 2 cows that live 2 doors over, and my friend has a herd of goats. I was trying to get over there before you arrived today to get my goat milk. Excuse me. So we finished the house, and we have friends celebrating. We were living in Venice at the time, and we get a knock on the door. It's probably 7 o'clock at night. There's this woman, and she says, "Oh, my friends are looking for a place to lease for their horses." And we're like, "Wow, look," and walk out, and there's these 2 cowboys in the driveway there, and this place is literally, there's nothing back here except the structure of the garage. Absolutely nothing. And we were like, well, you could come for 6 months because we're going to build a greenhouse. And he was like, okay. And he comes the very next weekend and puts up a stall, a pipe corral, and brings his horses over here. And not long after, he's giving cowboy training for the Boy Scouts that are nearby. And I'm feeding them grapefruit and serving them glasses of water in cups that we have to wash, and talking about zero waste and eating bitter. It's really good for your digestion. And he looks at me, he's like, Kathleen, nobody's talking like this down here. We need this in our neighborhood. And it didn't take my husband and I long before we're like, we need to grow people, not lettuce. And now it's people and lettuce. But really, just acknowledging our privilege and saying we need to share. I may have to go get a glass of water. And just really day camp, so they're here for a week, and it's thematically designed, and we make plant-based lunch ourselves every day, and we do art, and we talk about, you know, growing food, livestock, chicken raising, and other themes like food and culture. We've done that before too. And slowly but surely the community has seen what we've been up to, and so a lot of community groups use this space now. And we haven't asked permission. We just do. And technically, I think your neighbors are really going to influence how you can do that in your own neighborhood. And we happen to live in a very heavy Latinx community that loves to celebrate and has lots of parties. And so they don't call on me and I don't call on them. So it's really going to matter about your neighbors. They can make or break how something would happen in a local neighborhood. Technically, we used to have parking restrictions because of, I think there was both dog and rooster fighting in the neighborhood. That's the word on the street. I cannot verify. I can't say that's true. But during the pandemic, they stopped that parking permit. And as a result, the parties have increased tremendously because you were allowed 4 a year. And basically, I would have open house here and other events. And I think it really depends on how you're respecting your neighbors too, right? I have a 92-year-old neighbor here. And so we always shut down any amplified music at 11 o'clock. That's not true of my neighbors. They will go till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. But we don't do that. And, you know, that's okay. So that's how we get around that public-private piece. There's almost always somebody on this land, and that gate is almost always unlocked. And people who've been here know that they can come in here. And then anybody who Googles or shows up, I'll often show them the space if I'm free. I do have to go get a glass of water. I definitely swallowed a fly. So, it always looks kind of a bit of a mess back here, but this is really the soul of the farm because we've restored all of this land with compost. So I don't use any fertilizer or pesticide. I'm really just using mineralization. I worked with Dan Kittredge from the Bio Nutrient Food Association and took classes with him. I took class with oh gosh, her name just went out of my head. Shoot, composter from the Food Web and University of Oregon, and learned hot composting. Elaine Ingham, there we go. And so it's a very specific recipe. It's more carbon centric, so really building the fungal capacity of the soil, which makes vegetables grow a little slower. But when you have a lot of biology in the soil, you were asking about water, it holds water, right? And that life needs water to continue. And so I'm storing my browns, which is my carbon source, all the leaves, all the straw, not the hay, but the straw. And then all my clippings from the garden is green waste. And even if it's drying and brown, if I cut it and it was green, it's storing nitrogen. And so that's all green waste. And so you're mixing about a 60-40 ratio of carbon to nitrogen along with the party food, which is the fungi from basically the chicken poo. And and then you're stirring it up with water. And if we're using municipal water, I need some kind of humic acid to compensate for the chloramines that's in the water, right? Otherwise I'm killing the bacteria I want to have in the soil and the fungi. So it'll get to be 160, 170 degrees in the pile. And the first few weeks, 3 weeks maybe of the pile, we're turning it. And so I set up today, either we could turn the pile or you can make milk paint if we have time, as a sort of workshop. So when I run a field trip for community members, I'm, depending on the age, I'm always, doing a farm tour and often a food tasting and then a workshop of some kind. And that way we really can raise people's connection to the land. So I think if I were to say what's my mission, it's really to build equity, justice, sovereignty conversations into all of our earth practices, whether it's tending land, it's growing food, it's raising livestock, and saying how do we work in a more agroecological approach that says we're partners in crime, right? There's not a hierarchy. I'm really want to kind of attack the notion of hierarchy and the power that's attached to that. So I've started with the soil, feeding the soil, not the plant, right? And then from there you can kind of see how things unfold. So this is about 8 years old, right? The house took a couple years and the land is now 7, 8 years old, which I started with just a little patch of food growing right here and kept pushing the horses over and more and more and more. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get a goat now, Sydney. And you can see Richard's aesthetic, and a tremendous space planner. So this is 15,000 square feet. It's a very small compared to a Lopez with 2 acres, right? And we've packed a lot in here. And it's, like I said, it's legal to have livestock here because of the residential ag zoning. So we can't be nervous. They're not going to bite you. They're very friendly. She wants to come out. There we go.
Hey.
Very messy.
I like the horns.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going? He said, get off my horns. What are their names?
Oh, we've got, let's see, Claire is the brown one right here.
Hi,
And
Claire.
Winston is her son.
Hey, Winston.
And this is Tulsa. Everybody
Hey,
got
Tulsa.
a revolutionary name that was born
Awesome.
during the pandemic. So she was born on the 31st of May, and if you don't know, that was when Tulsa massacre happened and the destruction of that very well-off black city. And we have Marsha P. over here, the little baby black girl, the fuzzy one over there.
Oh, okay.
And then we had Toy Perina and Nicholas Jose, who were the tone buff resistors when the Spanish came into Los Angeles. And Toy Perina lives in Cal Poly with her nephew, Huey Newton, from the Black Panthers. So, you know, all these ways we have of weaving these stories and keeping them alive. I want to make sure people knew I wasn't being jokey, but really, you know, put that in the registry instead of King Charles or, right?
Yes.
Like, get that in the GO registry and really, how do we, you know, decolonialize our systems and thinking? And, you know, I had a person do infographic on one of our subjects on the water drought, and all of the images of the farmers were classic white images, and I'm like, that is the only complaint I can have about. I mean, it's everything's demonstration, but it's more like a field crop, and so I might broadcast seed, or I was growing cotton in there. I didn't have a good luck with the cotton this year. I was growing plant for paper. So again, looking at textiles and saying, what can we grow? And you can see the gourds. Tension between growing plants and housing or commercial development. And so we, Ronell and I talked recently about creating agrarian commons where we set aside land that's for growing food. But in this model here, it's a very layered approach to economics, and you'll see that on small farms. They need multiple revenue streams. So I have revenue stream from running field trips. I have revenue streams from renting out the space, which frankly is probably the largest one, right? Not growing food. Because most of the food in here is an experience, right? So I can sell the experience. You can come and we're gonna plant, or you're gonna, you know, volunteer and change labor that way. But you can also do training. And she was talking about she's a knitter. I'm like, oh, I can give her some wool to take home with her. I'd be happy to do that. It needs to be washed, it needs to be spun. But how cool to see her next year with the beanie that she made from Nicholas, right? And I've always wanted to do like lace, like a lace kind of, what do you call it? Wool lace.
Yeah, I like mixing like mohair and like.
Yeah, it's very
cool.
soft. But one of the other economic streams is making seedlings, right? So that's very doable in a place like this. I can sell the compost. I can sell the vermicompost. So you know, as a farmer, an urban agriculturist, I can sell the wool. You want to think about all the ways in which you have both a product and a service. And we have Chef coming on tomorrow night, and they're going to use the space. There's 3 chefs, and they have 20 people, and I think they charge $100 a person. And they're going to cook together. They're going to have an herbal walk together, and so you'll see both medicine and food and native plants, so pollinators and dye plants. So just different mixed plants. It's sort of also what I think when in the driveway, we even did that, but then we would have people in chairs and they couldn't get in here. And we were like, okay, that was also privilege and, you know, mobility justice. So there's so many pieces. Here is the food forest. And this is a kind of a foundational design element in permaculture. And you're looking at the stories, right? And you start with the tall story, which is going to be your fruit and nut trees, And then I'm planting, so things come ripe every month of the year. So I always have something I can get out of here. So here's the summer fruit, right? Apricot, nectarine, peaches, plums, and then as we move into here, we've got the figs, which are a little later in the summer. We've got apples, which are going, you know, they're setting fruit now. I've got almond tree, and then we've got the winter citrus. So we've got oranges, limes, lemons, and tangerines. And this is a dry well, or what others will call a bioswale. Okay, so we're mounding up. We want to hold, like I said, I want to hold as much water as I can on here. And so I'm got this tied to my roof. So all of the water comes off my roof and goes into the groundwater. So I'm very conscious about the water. It's just not, I'm not
It's
collecting
the way
it in a
that you're
barrel.
collecting it.
Yeah.
This
So
is like a bioswale collection
Yeah.
of rainwater, and
Exactly.
it's allowing it to live on site in a sustainable way. And it, like we saw on Ascot Hills, it also is low maintenance.
Well, because I didn't dig out all of the bloody grass, my maintenance is weeding. So that's the only thing I would say. But yeah, mostly I would call it low maintenance, yeah. And we did have a board rot, so this has all just been redone in here. And so you can see I need a few rocks to cover up the weed claw. But yeah, the maintenance is this weeding, which we'll walk through there and you can see it. Unfortunate, but it's significant.
Which
And
was
then
also an
stuff
issue at Ascot Hills. Like the weeds was definitely taking up the bioswale water.
Yeah.
Derailing the hierarchy, like the community should be able to share these kind of experiences. But that was one of my bigger takeaways that I really liked.
Well, my takeaway is how everybody in this area are very connected. So nobody complains because somebody else is doing something different, and everybody agree that they have to grow their own food, because I think almost that's what they're doing, they're growing their own food. And I think it's funny that the music goes until almost all night and nobody complains. I think that has to do by how well everybody in this area are communicating. So the communication is important, that nobody complains about anything. Yeah. And what I learned also is that it's very important to keep everything natural, because, well, at least for me, that makes me feel very happy right here. That wherever I go,
People say that.
yeah, wherever I go, I see something different, including weeds. Even if they only weeds, when I walk around, it makes me feel natural, rather than everything very neat and clean and organized. Well, nothing wrong with that.
It's like a beautiful chaos.
Yes.
Like a beautiful order
Yeah.
of natural order versus structured, straight lines,
Yes.
you know, squares, circles, and rectangles.
Yeah. Now, here is a question. How did you guys come up with the idea to control the water storm from the roof and create the bioswale? Somebody just...
Yeah, Richard did a lot of work with, what's his, Gray Oasis, the fellow in Santa Barbara that has the gray water research. He's quite advanced, and now there's the Rainwater Collective up there. I won't remember the name, but Richard had done a lot of research and always been interested in homesteading, natural building, knows how to build with earth
Anybody
bags.
gonna do that last little piece of orange? Y'all
Knows
sure?
how to build with straw
Okay.
bale. So he's always been interested in natural
Okay.
materials. Yeah. And that's, I was gonna make milk paint with you today. which you can use on wood, any surface that's porous, clay, terracotta, and it comes from milk and pigment of the earth, so it's a very, and lime, so it's very pure coloring, and it just it has its own aesthetic. Again, not for everybody, but just like the textiles, right? How do we use the pigments of the earth to color things? Because I think our attraction to the sort of the fluorescence, those are very poisonous colors, right? And even I'll use this for dyeing, and this gives a beautiful yellow. And then if I put iron salts in it, it'll turn black. Yeah.
My mom does. We do like for yarn, like avocado. There's like a nice pink.
Exactly, beautiful mauve. Do you want some wool before you go?
That would be great. That would be a learning experience for sure.
Some of my takeaways were just seeing how you guys dealt with accessibility and the pavement, and how it was really trial and error to see how to get people in, how to get people out, and just trying to tie it all together to also water and infrastructure.
I think my takeaway is a little tied to that, just keeping everything aesthetic, maybe you would call it, but also very natural. I think it's like this is a good structure to be seen in different residents. I feel like a lot of people maybe would want to do something like this, but they feel like they couldn't in their house. And for me, I was really impressed just to see taking your backyard and turning it into this. I also think us working with the Lopez Urban Farm, I liked how a lot of the structures that you have are very movable in a sense. And they're not like directly built into the environment. So I like all the, I don't know if aesthetics is the right word, but the very natural look of it.
Yeah, I think aesthetic is right. I will share, there's concrete poured. Like that nest has concrete poured for some of the bigger posts. These have concrete poured, so they don't look like that, but but to your point, it wouldn't be that hard to dig them out if you needed to do something else.